Okay, Algebra 1, 9.7, we kind of talked about this, right? This is graphing our quadratic inequalities, okay? So the big thing to remember is that when you graph an inequality, you have to have shading, okay? So quadratic inequalities have the form just like a linear inequality, except they're quadratic now, where it's going to be less than, greater than, less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to, okay? And we're going to graph, just like we graphed quadratic equations, solid or a dotted line though, and then shading, okay? So if we have the equation x squared plus 2x minus 4, okay, we're going to graph this. Like we graph quadratic equations, okay? So you find the vertex. And that's at the opposite of b over 2a. So negative 2 over 2 times 1. So the x-coordinate of the vertex is negative 1. And then you plug that in to find the y-coordinate. So negative 1 squared plus 2 times negative 1 minus 4. So 1 minus 2 is negative 1, minus 5 is negative, minus 4 is negative 5. So the vertex is at negative 1, negative 5, okay? So negative 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, this is going to open up because a is positive. Then when x is 0, y is negative 4, because it's 0 squared plus 2 times 0 minus 4. And when x is negative 2, y is going to be negative 2 squared plus 2 times negative 2 minus 4, which is also negative 4. Okay. Then we're going to connect it with a curve. All right, and we've graphed our quadratic. Then if I look at some points, okay, the point A is negative 1, negative 2. B is at negative 2, 3. And C is at 3, 0. Okay, we're going to put these in the graph here. So negative 1, negative 2. Here's point A. We're going to say A is on the inside of our parabola because it's opening up and it's in between the two arms, okay? B is at negative 2, 3. So here's B. It is also on the inside of your graph because if you're, or inside of your parabola, because if these keep going, okay? And then 3, 0. Is here. So C is on the outside of your parabola, okay? So you graph it, and then you find out that there are points inside, which are in between, and points outside, which are on the outside of the parabola, okay? So this is going to help us because you're deciding inside versus outside when you have to shade the quadratic equation for the inequality part, okay? All right, so really to graph a quadratic inequality, right, there are 3 basic steps, okay? The first step is you're going to graph the corresponding equation. right? That just simply means take your inequality and replace it with an equal sign. The less than or greater than is going to be a dotted line or dotted curve, okay? Because it shows that those points that are on the curve are not actually part of the solution. And then if it's less than or equal to and greater than or equal to, it's going to be a solid curve, okay? To show that those points are part of the solution. So you find your vertex and then points on either side. Like we did with graphing a parabola, okay? Then the parabola is going to separate your coordinate plane into two regions. So you pick a test point that's not on the parabola, okay, to decide if it's a solution. And then the last part is to shade. So if it's a solution, shade to cover it. If it's not a solution, shade the opposite way. So if it's inside and it's not a solution, shade outside. If it's outside and is a solution, you shade outside the parabola. Okay? Same general steps that you had with graphing a linear inequality, except now you graph a parabola instead. So we're going to graph y is greater than or equal to 3x squared plus 2x. Okay? So again, the very first step is to find your vertex. So x is the opposite of b over 2a. So b is, right, we look at standard form, that's ax squared plus bx plus c. So the coefficient with x is b, so it's going to be the opposite of 2 divided by 2 times the coefficient on x squared is a, so 3. So it's negative 2 over 6, or negative 1/3. Then you're going to plug that in to the equation to get the y coordinate. So 3 times negative 1/3 squared plus 2 times negative 1/3. So that's 1/9. 2 times negative 1/3. So that would be 3 times 1/9 is 3/9, or 1/3 minus 2/3 is negative 1/3. So that's your vertex. Is that negative 1/3, negative 1/3. Okay, and it's going to open up. So right about here, okay? All right, and then pick a couple of other points, right? So we're going to let x equals 0, and we get y equals 3 times 0 squared plus 2 times 0, so we get 0. Okay, if x is 1, then we get 3 times 1 squared plus 2 times 1. So we get 5. Okay, so then you could do when x is negative 1. Y equals 3 times negative 1 squared plus 2 times negative 1. So it's 3 minus 2. Okay, we're going to connect these points with a solid curve because it's greater than or equal to. Okay, and then you're going to pick a test point either inside or outside. Right, so if I test 0, 1, that is clearly inside right here. Okay, then is 0 greater than or equal to? No. y is 1. So is 1 greater than or equal to 3 times 0 squared plus 2 times 0? So is 1 greater than or equal to 0? And it is. So you're going to shade to cover that point. So you're going to shade inside this parabola. Okay, so really that's the new part. If you remember how to graph a parabola, then all you have to do is add in your shading. Okay? All right, one more, and then that is 9.7. So we're going to graph y is less than negative x squared plus 3x minus 1. Right, so you start by finding your vertex. So the x-coordinate, opposite of b over 2a. It's the opposite of 3, because it's ax squared plus bx plus c over 2 times negative 1. So we get 3 over 2. Okay, then you find your y-coordinate, so that would be negative 3 over 2 squared plus 3 times 3 over 2 minus 1. So it's negative 9 over 4 plus 9 over 2 minus 1. Common denominators, that's going to be 18 over 4, 4 over 4. So negative 9 plus 18 is 9, minus 4 is 5. So we get y-coordinate is 5 over 4. And this one is going to open down because a is negative. Okay, so your vertex is at 3 over 2, 5 over 4. So that's 1 1/2, 1 1/4. So 1 1/2 to right about there, okay? This is also going to be a dotted line because it's strictly less than. So if x is 0, y is negative 0 squared plus 3 times 0 minus 1. So we get y is negative 1. And if x is, say, 3, okay, we get negative 3 squared plus 3 times 3 minus 1. So it's negative 9 plus 9 minus 1. So you also get negative 1. Okay, dotted line connecting these, or dotted curve, goes this way. And then we're going to test a point. So pick something that you can clearly see where it is. So I'm going to pick right here, okay, because I can see that that is inside. So we're going to do 0, negative 3. So is negative 3 less than negative 0 squared plus 3 times 0 minus 1? Is negative 3 less than negative 1? And it is. So that's a solution, so you're going to shade in between again. Okay? So you just have to remember that shading once you graph your parabola. Okay? And that is 9.7.